Think about it.
What color is it? Black or blue?
So here.
I didn't center my first round.
Other people.
Next one you do?
This is the Texas. Yeah, it looks like it's blue. Speaking of which, I think you can. Yeah. That makes you.
Oh, this is not in the right one. Yeah, so you're doing total. Yeah, the mapping.
Yeah.
So do that.
Oh, I just don't want to make that anymore.
I do.
So what I like to say is but not enough to answer a little bit more. Probably because we have like a
I got snacks. Have you combined
To get somebody, yeah, what does that mean? Yep. I don't. Write it down. Everything working fine with Good. Now we're good. And she had and they come back and they start not working, like, oh, automatic, right? Drive away. I know it wasn't the flu, but talk about alcohol. She's like, I had to like go around and say, wheelchair and everything. Is it like your foot was hurting so bad? Oh my god. Pizza guy's on his way, so I'll just, different pizza guy.
Okay.
So I'll just give you the signal when he comes. I gotta get their acting together. Alright, are we ready? Good? Alright, everybody. Welcome, welcome. How we doing?
Well,
Thanks for the wonderful birthday wishes and everything last week.
yes.
I ended up having the flu, so it wasn't like my top birthday, but probably the highlight was the cake and everything. Like that made it like better than all the other garbage. So thank you, because it was not fun. But the cake and the pizza part was the only fun part. So that was good. So, well, welcome back. Hopefully your week went pretty well. If it's not, the weekend is so close. So tonight we have a returning company. They actually came and spoke last spring. We've had them come in a couple different times, so this isn't the first session. So it should be a pretty interesting session. So for those of you that are interested in Workday or learning more about Workday and about like what are some of the opportunities you have, if you're interested in HR, financial services, if you're interested in consulting and helping companies grow and find resources and find ways to improve, then this is a great opportunity for you. Like I said, they came last spring. Their office here is in Miami, so it's not too far away. And then they'll talk a little bit about some of the other opportunities they have if you want to go elsewhere in the country. They have a lot of different offices, a lot of opportunities available. So without further ado, can we give a nice warm round of applause for the team from Alight Solutions?
Thank you, Jonathan, and good afternoon. My name is Jose Shimon. I'm currently a Workday management consultant with Alight. I've been at Alight for about 2 years and I've had 2 different roles. Originally working on the integration space, so I used to manage the technical aspect of the Workday implementation, and now working on financial deployments and reporting. So to my right I have Juan.
Hey guys, my name is Juan Zapata. I've also been with Alight now for about 2 years as a Workday consultant, primarily concentrating in the time and absence functional areas of the system.
Hi everybody, I'm Robert Millades. I have actually been in Alight a little longer now. I usually do it in Workday years, but in real years, we talk about Workday updates. So I guess it's been 9 years. And I'm the compensation pillar lead, which means I head up our methodology and projects around deploying compensation within Workday as a functional architect.
All right, so really quick to talk to you guys about what Alight is. So Alight, like Jonathan mentioned, is a consulting firm, as well as we do wealth management and we do benefits administration for different companies. We have about 14 global delivery centers. So across the globe, we have offices in Poland, in Australia, in Auckland, I think, New Zealand, we may have one, as well as London and
India and Singapore.
India and Singapore. Across the U.S., we have offices here in Miami, as we said before. Our main headquarters is in Lincolnshire, Illinois, which is about 45 minutes an hour away from Chicago, depending on what time you try to get in a car. And we also have centers in Dallas and Atlanta. So we're spread very wide. There's opportunities for people to move between offices. We currently have a couple of guys that were in rotation in Poland for 2 years and are coming back, and we're sending 2 new guys to Poland. So it's a great opportunity for you to travel the world, see different areas and work projects with different geographic locations. Alight has about 22,000 employees right now. The number goes up and down, depending on when you ask. Out of those 22,000, I think about 1,000 are Workday certified, the last time that I checked, which means those are the people that actually do the Workday implementations. The other ones, like we were saying before, could be people that do HR benefits, that actually handle the payroll for large companies. We actually just finished going live with one of our clients that had 450,000 people getting paid on one day. So that's our largest payroll deployment as of right now, so we're very proud of that. We have over 1,400 clients, 50% or more, I think, of the Fortune 500 companies, and serve over 19 million, individual customers and family members. So what we mean by that is, like I said, like if you're getting paid, they have one company that's our client, but that company has 450,000 people. So that's part of that big number that's comprised there. So a little bit more about Alight. We value and we have our different values that we try to live by and make sure that our employees and colleagues live by. So people matter is the first one, and one that's very important to me particularly, and I'm sure to everybody else here. We want to make sure that we take into account your needs and who you are and what you want. A lot of times you'll hear that, and you may have heard you're only a number in certain companies, and that is true. A lot of times, like for large companies that have thousands of employees, you may just be employee 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At Alight, especially in CDS, which is the Cloud Deployment Solutions that we work in, we pretty much know everybody's name. Like we may not be close to 1,000, but we know who those 1,000 people are. Like we recognize the names, we work with each other, we collaborate with each other. So that's why people matter is, one of our driving values. After that is excellence in every day. So obviously we want to make sure we do what's right for the company, for our client, and for our employees as well. Excellence goes across all of those different things. Think forward. We always try to look for ways to, like it says here, reimagine, and also how to solve problems, and try to anticipate problems that a customer may have, and try to solve for that issue by using technology and by using different processes. Act now is, if you see something, say something type thing, like where we want to make sure that we give employees the ability to speak and to be able to solve issues and empower them to do things on their own. So if they, find something that they want to work on, they can go ahead and do that and fix it, and ultimately be real. So we don't want you to come to an interview or, go on site or try to tell us what we want to hear. We want you to be yourself, and that's something that we drive for. Some of our consultants don't have the traditional background that you may think in IT. We were actually joking about that before. My undergrad was actually international relations, then I got a master's in diplomacy, and eventually I got my MBA. But that's not a traditional route that you see a lot of the consultants take. Robert?
I have a bachelor's in math and physics, and my master's in physics and astronomy. But here I am.
So one, I think, is the only traditional route when it comes to degrees.
Yeah, so my bachelor's was actually in advertising, and I specialized in web development. So I definitely pictured, this certainly wasn't where I thought I was gonna end up, but I mean, life is funny sometimes, and it kind of puts you in the best position.
Yeah, so like you see, I mean, there's different varied backgrounds, people coming straight from college, people coming with experience already. So what we look for is for you to be a good cultural fit. And that's something that you'll hear a lot from a lot of companies. Make sure that, like you are yourself and you're able to be yourself, not just say, I'm a consultant, this is what I do, and I study business, and that all I can talk is business. We allow you to be yourself, and the fact that we have this broad experience does help, because you can hold different conversations with different people and, different interests. So that's something that's very important for us. So Cloud Deployment Solutions, I mentioned it a little while ago. So in Alight, like we said, we have different areas. Cloud Deployment Solutions is the one that actually focuses on the deployment of Workday to our clients. So we do have functional consulting, which is where you go in and do the configuration of Workday. We have data conversions, which grabs the information that you had in your previous system, converts it into how Workday is going to use it, and then loads it into Workday. So you can have that historical data in there. We have change management, which basically is when you're doing those upgrades and when you're doing those transitions, change management helps you work with how people are gonna be submitting tickets to make changes, as well as how we're gonna, progress through the project. And ultimately, and I know I skipped it, but it's for a reason, is integration. So integrations basically grabs all the data that you have in Workday and is able to move it to another system or vice versa. Grabs data from another system and puts it into Workday. So very simply, it's just that, moving data from one place to another.
Sometimes from Workday.
Yeah, sometimes we have this fancy thing called a boomerang, where basically Workday spits out the information, puts it into Excel, or into an XSLT, which is kind of Excel, changes the data and feeds it back to Workday. I won't bore you guys into why we do that, but that is one of the things that integrations does. So this one's a little outdated. Oh, actually, this one doesn't include anything else. That's right. So 670 Workday certified consultants that we had across North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. So Alight Workday Solutions. What is Workday? I believe a few of you guys are familiar with Workday, right? You've taken some classes. Anybody not familiar with Workday? Okay, so a few. So Workday basically is a cloud solution that does what they call human capital management, or HCM, as well as financial management. So you may have heard of other systems, SAP, PeopleSoft. They were your traditional, what they call like on-site or on-premise solutions, where people did their HR, their payroll, their financial reporting, and that type of stuff. So Workday is very similar, just purely on the cloud. So what happens at that point is that you no longer have to spend a lot of capital to bring in servers on site and have that, like IT management, control the server, patching, and all that stuff. Everything is done in the Workday data centers. So all the customers do is just access their system through our URL. So what we do with Workday is that we provide the configuration and implementation of the system, including reporting. So, like in the case of financials, for example, people being able to run their 10K, like their income statements and all the different forms that you need to report to shareholders, payroll processing, and configuration and implementation, integrations, etc. So overall, our Workday system, these are some of the different things. There's a lot more that you could do through Workday. So you have the capability of electing benefits. You have the capability of doing payroll, accounting, and finance, recruiting. So a lot of the times when you start applying for jobs and you access their website, some of them may say Taleo, some of them may say Workday. So those are different. That's a different recruiting tool that particular company uses. So Workday does have the ability for you to apply for jobs and do recruiting. We also have the capability of doing expenses. So when people travel for work, including us as consultants, we put our expenses through Workday, and Workday matches it to our corporate credit card, and then pays the corporate credit card directly. So we don't have to do that. And and talent management, which basically is your yearly review. So whenever you're getting your performance reviews and your merit cycle increases and that type of stuff, Workday handles that. So that's kind of like a brief overview of what Workday does. Very quick. Any questions so far? I know I went very quick. No? Okay, so I'll turn it over to Robert.
So basically, what is Alight, and specifically Cloud Deployment Solutions within Alight, looking for? Well, we're looking for specific people to be joining our team. In the Miami office, we have roles that are functional, or time solutions, or HCM and recruiting, finance, total rewards, and integrations on the technical side. We'll go into each of these, but overall what we're looking for is we're looking for people who may not necessarily have a very specific skill set when it comes to a particular tool or a particular industry, but we're effectively looking for smart people. Smart people with the right kind of skill set and the right kind of culture that would fit with us. So they're going to be analytical and be able to solve problems, because that's almost all we do, is we're constantly given some kind of like weirdo scenario. So I'm in this system and it can only do so many things, but the customer wants to do something else. How do I get there, right? Then you need to be a communicator. You need to be able to speak clearly. You need to be able to present. We present from everything. We're presenting in front of you, but we present in front of clients. It could be, you know, frontline users that might be just a manager or supervisor in the system, all the way up through C-level folks, depending upon the team and session that you're having. You need to be able to write as well, so then all the forms of communication are going to be important. You need to be adaptable because things are constantly changing. As a matter of fact, the system itself, Workday, has 2 updates a year, which is another thing that's different from other on-premise solutions where no matter what, twice a year, there's a new version and everyone's on the new version. We all have to get used to that and understand what changes occurred and what things impact your particular part of the solution. You need to also have a passion for continued learning because, like, that was a joke that we always used to have, like, you know, no matter what experience you have, the new update comes and now we're all newbies again, right? Like, what happens with that new thing that's coming out next week? We all know what's coming out in March for 2020 R1, the name of the release that we're gonna have there. And then of course, be able to be leaders and have initiative, because depending upon your role, a lot of the work is gonna be very self-directed. It's, well, you have this much to do and there's a certain timeline, off you go. Within that, we have these different areas. So one of the core areas of the product is HCM, which is human capital management. And basically that is the base part of the application that tracks recruiting as well as the staffing piece of all the folks that are in a certain organization. So tracking the candidates through the process of establishing who's going to be hired, how they're hired, what position they hold, who they report to, what organizations they're associated to, what compensation they're associated to, and so on. And in HCM, we would then be helping the customer define their structure. What are going to be their list of jobs? What will be the business process for hiring someone? Do I need to get an approval? And from whom? All those are going to be part of the building a solution within HCM. Then for,
I'll talk about this.
yeah. Okay, so then there's another section called Total Rewards. So Total Rewards sort of sits as a part of HCM, and it has several different pieces. One is benefits, and so that's just how we would track how people are going to get the different benefits that they would get as an employee within the organization, including things like 401k, health insurance, life insurance, pet insurance, car allowance, cars, a company car, all the different kinds of things that you get as part of benefits. Then compensation is another piece where we would have how we're tracking people's base pay, but not just their base pay, their pay ranges, what kind of increases they might get, cycles for merit, bonus, or even forms of equity. That's really my main focus in the system. There's also performance management, which and talent, which tracks basically how well your folks are doing. It also establishes who are your high performers, who are people who could define succession plans and establish all those different structures. And then the fourth piece of Total Rewards is learning management, where we would be able to, we now have a system that would track learning within the application as well. So as you have hired people, you're going to want those people to grow and progress in your organization, and you want to track what training they have, what they need to have in order to be able to stay or be promoted throughout the organization.
Sorry for jumping on a little bit. So the next piece that we wanted to talk about is the actual financial aspect of Workday. So within Workday, like we said, you have that HCM, the Human Capital Management piece, but you also have the ability to run your financials within Workday. So what does that mean? We help the customer organize their company structure, their cost centers, you know, where things are billed to, if they have locations in different, you know, in different states, you know, we're able to actually track how much money one location is making, how much money we're spending on another location, and we're able to spread it like that. Within finance itself, there's three main pillars, as we call them. First one is FDM, or financial accounting. So FDM stands for financial data model, and basically that's what we do to help with the accounting piece of the project of the company. So basically, if somebody's buying you know, pizza, you know, for example, or a presentation, what account is that gonna hit? You know, like it's gonna hit your refreshment account or your food account, you know, if somebody's buying a car, you know, for their CEO, what account is that hitting, you know, that type of stuff. Then we have what they call revenue management, and basically revenue and spend management, what they do is they focus on that, on what's generating revenue for the clients. So anything having to do with like customers, contracts, payments, that's part of your revenue, and spend is everything having to do with suppliers, you know, purchase orders, or expense reports. So those are the different pillars that we have. You know, within that you have a lot of different like specializations, but those are the main ones. And like I said before, there's also financial reporting that kind of encompasses all three of them. Jumping really quick, so integrations, and we basically, we briefly touched on that before. Integrations is just, like we said, moving data from one system to another, sometimes to the same system, Workday. So a very basic example is, even though we could do time tracking within Workday, there's a lot of other systems out there that do time tracking, such as Chronos. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, where you come in, you swipe a card, and it starts your time, and then when you leave for the day or for your break, you swipe it out. What we could do is, if the customer is in Chronos and they're moving to Workday to do their payroll, Chronos would actually send that information of, you know, employee A worked 100 hours this month, you know, give them their check for this amount. So Workday receives that information from Chronos, and our payroll, you know, like engine will go ahead and create all the different calculations out of those 100 hours. You know, 80 hours were straight time, 20 hours were overtime, you know, and then this is how much that employee gets paid. And then they will deduct the taxes and do all that stuff, print the checks if that's part of what they have, etc. So that's basically what they do. We do the same thing with benefits. So when you're electing benefits, this is my insurance company. We get information from the benefits provider. We send information to the benefits provider, and that's kind of what we do.
Hi guys, and now I'm going to talk a little bit more about time solutions. So at Alight, we define time solutions. If you're a time solutions consultant like I am, it means that you support the time tracking and the absence management functional area in Workday. So what do these two functional areas do? So time tracking, as the name alludes to, is literally the product of Workday that tracks employees' time. Example, manufacturers, they come in, they clock in at a time, they clock out at a certain time every single day. They do that for a bi-weekly pay period. And of course, for each of those hours, they're going to get paid at a rate. Of course, in the background, for example, in the state of California, there's certain laws that occur that say that if you work more than 10 hours a day, you get paid at time and a half. If you work more than 12 hours a day, you get paid what's called double time. And in different countries and in different states, and then just varying internal company policies, a lot of employees get paid different ways. So what time tracking Workday allows you to do is allows you to basically automate that using built-in calculated fields, a built-in calculation engine to do all of that in the background, so that all an employee simply has to worry about is simply punching in and punching out. Meanwhile, Workday calculates all of their time in the background. Flip side on the absence management, where time tracking tracks your time at work, absence management tracks your time away from work. Where basically, for example, you can give someone a vacation plan. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with that concept. You work for a company, you get, for example, 100 hours of vacation time a year, and you want to be able to track when it is that you take that vacation and track it against that balance. On top of that, you also want to make sure you get paid for that particular time away from work. So all of that, I know on a surface level sounds very, very simple, but imagine you're deploying this at times for companies with almost 500,000 employees that have varying countries, varying policies, varying degrees of tiers that they get both in time tracking and absence management, and that's where the challenge comes in. And that's not just true for just time solutions, that's true across the board. And that's what makes Workday Consulting such a challenging front, is you're deploying automated, effective solutions for companies with hundreds of thousands of employees, all working in different time zones, all expecting to all work in the same system and for all of it to work smoothly. And that's why we believe that Workday is such a great product, because it can do all of these things where previously you needed, for example, multiple systems to do. You now have it all in one nice little package, where once it's all beautifully configured, you see it all executed in one nice run. So now we talked a little bit about what Workday is, but let's actually discuss a little bit what training would be like if you were to join Alight. So first things first, should you decide to pursue a career with us, we want to get you Workday certified as quick as possible. So it's a hard and fast rule that for you to be able to implement and consult on the Workday platform, you have to have a certification. So you get certified, for example, in many areas. At minimum, you have to be certified in the human capital management space. And afterwards, you can get additional certification. So for example, I myself am certified in projects, in time tracking, in absence management, and in medium enterprise. These are all different things that you can specialize in the platform. So I know Jose and Robert, they all have additional, probably a lot more certifications than I do, but minimum you have to be certified in at least one before you consult. So obviously Alight is invested in getting you certified as quick as possible. As we said, one of our values is that people matter, so from the very beginning, we want to get you familiar with the platform from day one. So we're going to dive into a little bit how it is that we actually go about doing that. All right, so before I get into what the training actually details, let's talk about some activities of a Workday specialist. So obviously we hinted a lot about, there is a big ask of being able to solve problems. And we're not just talking about, typical business-to-business problems. These are big data problems, And sometimes you may get on a project and an employee literally just throws a spreadsheet at you and they're like, look, that's our system, figure it out. And sometimes that's what it is. They throw big numbers at you, so for those of you who are really good with spreadsheets, work really well with numbers, Time Solutions might actually be your calling, but overall Workday, that's pretty much what it is. You're solving data solutions, all of these number solutions. But on top of that, you're also contributing to a project and working with multiple people at once. A lot of the times you may be on a call where you have people, these folks are in the Middle East, these folks are in Poland, these folks are in Canada, these folks are in Mexico, and you're trying to communicate with all of those and gather the requirements for each of their specific countries. That certainly takes a big level of skill to do that, and that's something that we expect from you guys. Additionally, we also want to develop anyone that comes out of Alight. We don't just want you to, for example, be specializing in time tracking. We want you to be able to grow and become, for example, a people manager, or maybe take, a route into sales, for example. And we do encourage that. We do encourage that growth here at Alight, that, whatever it is that you start at, the expectation is that as you continue with this, you continue to grow and develop. And that's pretty much what we strive for, just, every single day on whatever project you're on, try to learn something a little bit new, and that's what we encourage across the board. So now let's talk a little bit about what actually training occurs at Alight. So we pretty much combine our overall training program and divide it into two things. So when you come, of course, we assign you to a project. You sort of take on a shadowing/mentoring role. So you would, for example, if you were to come into the finance space, you might get put on a project with Jose. Jose being a more experienced consultant, he would walk you through some of the common scenarios on a FINS deployment, and you would kind of mentor under him and start learning the ropes on how it is that you want to architect a financial solution. And overall, we pretty much will just assign you to as many projects as you can, whether it's just resolving defects or actually sitting in on a call. We want to get you hitting the ground running as soon as possible. Maybe we're a little bit biased because the more we can get you working, the more billable hours we can get you to do, but that's a different story. But the point is like, this is not going to be somewhere where you start off in the first year, you're kind of just sitting back doing paperwork, doing busy work. It's like, no, we want to put you out in the forefront, ideally day one. But before we can do that, we do also put you through what's called the Ignite program. So this is a 12-month program that Alight has where we actually, you basically mingle a lot with a lot of internal folks in Alight. So I didn't do it myself, but the way it works is that we actually fly you out for a week where you spend with a lot of other Alight colleagues. You get to know them, you start building a network, and then from there you actually get the chance to meet, for example, some C-suite level executives, get to talk to them, and we're a big believer that the more experiences that you can learn from many folks, that's just going to help propel your consulting skills even more. So as I did mention, the Ignite program is a 12-month early career development program specifically for our college hires, with the goal of investing in the Ignite colleagues to ensure a healthy pipeline and successful career at Alight. So it's pretty straightforward. Again, it's a really good program that we offer exclusively to our new hires. I've worked with a lot of folks who are now very successful consultants that have gone through this program, and they said very positive things, just because, again, they've met with a lot of people, They get to learn a lot of resources from the very beginning, and they've all mentioned that, you know, that experience has helped them in very tough situations during their implementations. So pretty much the Ignite program, we can divide it into 3 goals. We want to give you a good network of folks to be able to go to. So I did mention we obviously would pair you up with a mentor or a shadow, which obviously we would expect that you go and ask questions to, but of course we want to give you that entire network of all of Alight to be able to go to. So for example, you may be on a FINS project, but maybe there's something specifically that was asked that you may need something in compensation. So you could reach out to Robert, for example, and he could help you out. And we want to make that's something that we strive for, to always show folks at Alight that there is a bigger network out there of people that you can reach out to. Aside from that, we also want to help everyone develop those soft skills that really you need as a consultant. So one of the challenges of being a consultant is, yes, maybe you are very technical minded, but at the same time, maybe you've never stood in front of a client and spoken in front of a room of 20 people and had to gather policies about how it is that their business works. So that's something that we strive from the very beginning to get everyone familiar with, you know. We never, like I said, we never grab someone and have them take a backseat for a year. It's like, you know, it's kind of a sink or swim situation where we want you to succeed from the very beginning. And really just at the end of the day, the idea is just to grow as a consultant. That's what we want to encourage, that's what we want to do. And, you know, growing, developing, becoming a better professional every day is certainly something you can expect by joining us. And now just a little bit specifically about our Miami office. Maybe I'm a little biased to say that we are the best office. But, you know, I've met enough folks from Alight to say, yeah, we are for sure the best office in the entire company, but maybe that's just me. You know, obviously we can't put all of the things that we do here just because we are, you know, short on time and we have way too many pictures to show, but by working with us, you can expect a lot of happy hours, a lot of really cool company sponsored things. I know I've become very close with a lot of the people ever since I started working on Alight, so if you're looking for a place where you can not only grow as a professional, but also make a great personable network of friends, this is really the place where you want to be. With that said, do you guys have any questions? Whether it's Workday, Alight, definitely shoot them up right now.
Where am I going to look at?
Pretty much by the airport. Do you know where Blue Lagoon is?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're literally right there.
Okay.
But we'll be moving
For
a
now.
little bit.
Oh yeah, we'll be moving actually.
We'll move more toward, it'll be Doral.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
A little further north, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit further south.
Because the only concern I have, like, Miami traffic gets terrible, especially, you know, near the airport.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so one of the beauties about Alight, and you know, and obviously it's a little bit different when you first start, but because you do travel, because you know you do work sometimes late hours, we do have the flexibility of allowing people to work from home and work remote from time to time. So as a college hire in the beginning, the expectation is for everybody to go to the office. So you know, especially to make sure you get used to the work environment and the type of work, and to ask questions of everybody that's around you. Once you start getting a little bit more seasoned and working, they'll allow you to work from home once a week. You know, and then that day allows you to avoid that commute. You know, and I think Robert, I could attest, you get a lot more work done at home than you do at the office, because you don't have the cafecito breaks and people stopping at your desk to ask you questions. So you end up becoming more proficient, and you actually get a lot more work done when you work from home. And eventually they'll allow you to do maybe 2 days, 2 days a week, potentially, a little bit more. But in the beginning, the expectation, especially for college hires, while you're going through the Ignite program, is for you to be at the office, like getting to know everybody else and getting to know what you would do as a consultant.
And let me not slide over that. It is part of our new hire program in the Miami office to make sure everyone knows how to make good coffee.
Yeah, it's a fact.
There you go.
No, it actually says it in the contract.
It's
Like,
part of it.
that, like, employment is contingent
part of-
on a good batch.
Yeah, Workday certified and
And how to make coffee.
Okay, any other questions? Yes?
I know you mentioned that you guys work on multiple projects at a time.
Mhm.
This is more of a personal question towards you guys. Have you ever been overwhelmed with the amount of projects you're working on, and if you are you able to communicate it effectively to manage it, or
Yes.
something like that with your higher ups?
I think we can all
speak to
that.
that.
So that's a very good question. I'll tell you flat out. For example, there was one time that I was working only one project and I was still overwhelmed. I was, think we were getting close to what we call the end-to-end phase, which is where the customer has to test everything, you know, like all the configuration that we've done, you know, run mock payrolls, make sure that all the integrations run. And I was putting in 70, 80 hours a week, not including travel. So it was to the point where I actually reached out to my manager and to the engagement executive of that particular project. And I told them, I need to step back. I need, you know, like I need some help. And, you know, like it took a couple of days, but they were able to find somebody else where they could relieve some of the tasks that I was doing and hand them off to somebody else. So we do have a very good communication and collaborative group, where if somebody needs help, you know, and they'll find somebody that has a little bit more bandwidth and will help you out. And just like that, in multiple projects, it works the same way. There's a lot of times where customers will send meeting invites for the same time. They're like, well, you know, like, I'm your number one priority, I'm your customer, and then your other customer will tell you the same thing. So that's the point where, you know, having other people and knowing other people in the office and in the workplace will help you, because you're like, hey, can you cover for me during this, because I cannot. And if it comes down to, I mean, like your project manager, your engagement execs, they'll help you out.
I think that one of the things that I would go back to, that Jose brought up, was about our values. And the very first value is people matter. And that is something that's important, and it's not just lip service. Alight isn't like another company where it's like we sell these widgets. And so, you know, as long as we get more widgets out the door, I can find some new person to sell widgets. All we are is people. We are a group of people who provide a service. If there's no people, there is no work. And if there's no work, there's no revenue. So we consider it very important at Alight to make sure that our people are going to feel comfortable in the roles they're in. Now, it depends what role you're in. Depending upon the project, some people have one customer and that's it. One customer, one project, that's what they're on. Other people have to balance them, but it's also because of the scope of the work, right? I mean, if I'm dealing with, in Juan's case, if it was one smaller project, because it's a smaller customer, they're only in one country, I'm not gonna spend all day, every day on that one project, because I could probably get away with putting in other work. And so depending upon the sizes of the projects, and your role in the project is how they define how many projects you're gonna have at once. But if you do get overwhelmed, I think every single colleague is empowered to speak to their manager, their engagement exec, the project manager, to be able to speak to them.
Yeah, and also on the flip side, in fact, you know, if you are someone who you are just that good of a consultant, where you can just get through what maybe other folks might take 40 hours to do in a week, maybe you do in 20. We also encourage to say, just like, hey, if you feel like you can grow a little bit more, we encourage that on the flip side. But overall, the message is, it's like, whatever it is that you're feeling at that moment, you know, once you start working, you get a manager that should always be there. And you can always communicate this thing, whether it's you either feel overwhelmed or underwhelmed, we want you to say that.
Yeah. So for example, like in the finance area, we use Slack a lot. So we actually have a channel dedicated for bandwidth. So if, you know, we ask every week who has bandwidth on a particular day. And people will come in and say, hey, I have a pretty light load on Thursday, or I have a pretty light load on Friday. And if there's somebody that needs help, they know that they can reach out to those particular people. You know, instead of having to even go to your PM or your project manager, you actually just go to that particular person. You're like, hey, I saw you have a little bit of bandwidth, can you help me out with running these, you know, test cases or uploading this data into the system? And, you know, like we help each other out like that. So we won't let anybody, you know, we won't let them hang out to dry, or, you know, get overwhelmed to the point that they want to quit or have a breakdown. We try to make sure that we get that ahead of time, but with that being said, it's all about communication. If we give you work and you don't tell us that it's overwhelming you, we may give you a little bit more work, you know, and then a little bit more work. Eventually you say like, okay, I have enough, I'm good, you know, like this is my threshold, and then at that point they'll stop and they'll help you out with whatever you need.
Any other questions?
I have one. So I know like every position kind of starts with a Workday certification. How does it kind of decide like which one so you get that one certification, then you get another one in one of the other categories, or?
So the way it works is pretty much right now, currently, as part of the Ignite program is, so as I did mention, like before anything else, you have to get certified in the human capital management space, regardless of what it is. You have to have that bare minimum. So right now, we kind of put you in, and maybe you guys want to, like, are we doing what we like?
So basically what they do is you get hired into one of two tracks basically. You have the technical track and the functional track. Your technical track will consist of data conversions, reporting, and integrations. So if you did a lot of programming in school, if that's what you majored in, or if that's what you like and like you have an interest in, we'll kind of align you to that track. The functional side, on the flip side, like one said, you have different, you have to at least be able to do HCM, but there's other areas. So the other areas will place you there based on two things. Number one, business need, and number two, your preference. So if you're coming in, for example, and you have an accounting degree, more than likely you'll say, hey, I want to go into finance, maybe the accounting pillar within finance. If you have an HR degree, more than likely we'll place you into the HCM role. If you had like a business degree and you're not sure which area you want to go to, then at that point we'll say, okay, we'll start you out at HCM, and then once you're nearing the end of Ignite, we'll say, okay, right now time tracking is the one that needs a little bit more help, or payroll is the one that needs more help, or total rewards. We'll kind of work with you to see which one you're a better match for. But yeah, that's kind of how we do it. It's a little bit of business need and a little bit of your background and preference.
Much better answer.
You did good. HCM is the base.
Yeah, that was great. Any other questions? Yes.
So is what you guys offering, is that considered like a full-time position, or is it like more of an internship? Do you have anything kind of along the lines of an internship?
So we'll be passing out some flyers that do have our career website. So from there you can see all of our available positions. But off the top of my head, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe right now we're looking more for like full-time.
It would be
Yeah.
full-time.
Okay.
We don't actually have internships at this moment.
We do in one of our other offices, but in the Miami office, not at the moment.
Okay.
Do you do any in terms of internships, do you do any summer internship programs? No?
I'd have to refer you to our career site as to where, but I know internships right now is not something that we're at least in the Miami office, it's not something that we're really concentrating on. But I believe in our career website, you might be able to find more information. And then from there, you should be able to maybe get in touch with a few folks and kind of ask those questions.
Yeah, on the CDS space, where we work, because the actual work itself is so specialized and you need to have a Workday certification, the internships themselves are a little bit hard to come by. Alight, because as I was stating before, Alight does more than just CDS. They do benefits management and wealth management and payroll processing. They do have opportunities for internships, but they're in other areas of the company, so that's why we're not well versed in what opportunities they have or where they have them. More than likely Lincolnshire or Dallas may have some opportunities there, but again, it wouldn't be in the consulting realm of Alight. I believe you had a quick question.
Yeah. So you said there was functional and technical kind of in the past.
Yes.
How technical are we talking?
So when we say technical, it's not your traditional go into a basement and code for 16 hours. It's a little bit different, So you need to have a little bit of technical expertise. So if you've taken a couple of programming classes in school, like Java, C++, well, I don't even know what type of C they're in now. But basically C Sharps, .NET, development, that type of stuff. You would be, you would be good with that. What ends up happening is that you have, for example, somebody that did business and they took one programming class and they come in and say, oh, I know how to program, so I ask them a couple of questions and they're like, well, I did that my sophomore year, but I didn't really like it. So then my question is, why do you want to go into the technical side if you don't like it? Whereas there's other people that are like, oh, I majored in international relations, but I took it upon myself to learn programming because I liked it and it interested me. So they'll take that into account. So as far as how technical you need to be, just being able to understand different syntaxes, and analytical frame of mind as far as if else statements, that type of stuff, if you know that and interest you, then you could be technical enough to do that. If you don't understand, what variables are and stuff like that, then maybe, the technical side is not
So what you do and kind of what your team around you does is a little bit more programming and stuff like that, or?
So what happens on the integration side, so like I said, it's moving data from one place to the other, right? So in the case of, let's say, moving data from Workday to another system, what you do is you export that data from Workday and put it into, a report, let's say within Workday. Now, the system that's gonna receive that data says, I have to receive it in a fixed width format where column 1 is, 10 characters and column 2 is this and column 3 is this, and my date formatting needs to be year, dash, etc. So what you would then do is write a program to be able to change that. So you're kind of doing like what we call transformation of the data. So you grab the data, you massage it, for lack of a better word, change it and send it to the client. And then the receiving customer will say, okay, this is my data, it looks good, or hey, I'm having an issue with this, so that, the date format is coming in wrong. So then you will go into your code and check why is the data formatting coming in wrong, did I punch in something wrong? Is the data that I'm receiving from Workday, like in a format that I wasn't expecting it, and so on. So the code that you write is to be able to get the data in the format that somebody wants it, or to transform the data that somebody's sending you to load to Workday. That's like the simpler ones. There's some that are very complicated where we use Eclipse, to actually write code to be able to write, to be able to do these integrations and do a lot of like hash maps and stuff like that. But that's like more complex that you would be doing like later on in the integrations aspect.
And I will also add that, we do divide it into functional and technical. There is still a degree of like technical knowledge that is expected on the functional side, because every functional area, in Workday, you have to create what are called, for example, calc fields or eligibility rules, or sometimes you have to create custom reports. And there is a level of like technical skill that you do want to have, not to the degree of like, can you program this from scratch, but being able to understand, how do objects in Workday relate to each other, what is an instance? How can I stack calculated fields on top of each other to pull a specific instance? Like, you do need to understand that. So that is not to say that, for example, doing a functional role, there is just zero requirement for anything technical. Like, there is an expectation that you are comfortable in Excel, for example. Can you do VLOOKUP? Can you do a pivot table? Like, can you filter in Excel to kind of like, understand data? Like, that's still an expectation.
Yeah, the technical is just that, it's more technical.
Yeah.
But I think at this point in society, everybody has to be a little bit technical.
It's very broad, I was just trying to like clear it up.
Right, yeah. Well, but to be completely clear, and I think it's a fair point, because one of the things that we don't do is we wouldn't necessarily, and we found it in the past, we might not target a computer science major, because even in the technical role, a pure computer science major is going to want to sit in and code, and I want to draw the whole picture, and I want to control. In Workday owns the interface. Workday owns the data structure. So you're not going to be, creating brave new parts of that. What you're doing is you're creating technical structures, but within that framework.
Yeah, like if building apps, for example, is what you want to do, this particular role would not be what you're applying for. And even, for example, like we were talking about it, even if you're an integrations, resource, at a certain point in your career, we do expect you to go in front of these clients and talk to them and lead sessions, like lead discovery sessions, and gather requirements from them. So you do need, like interpersonal skills and business skills, which is part of what we talked about during the training that we help you build. So if you're somebody that's comfortable sitting in front of a screen, coding and going home, then maybe consulting is not for you. Maybe the integrations track is not for you. Maybe you want to do more of the traditional developer role, like somewhere else. But everybody in this area does need to have a little bit of people skills and a little bit of technical skills. Which one you have more of depends on which route you go on, but you do need to have a combination of both.
Thank you.
Can we give them a nice warm round of applause? I gave them their thank you bags early because I had the waters in there, so it's just a form of laziness. So they got their bags. So thanks so much for coming. Hopefully it seemed like everybody enjoyed the session. Don't forget before you leave, make sure you sign in, and then the gang will be here for a little bit afterwards if you want to talk with them one-on-one. They have some swag and other stuff here, so on your way out if you want to grab anything, you can get some Alight swag. And then before we leave, I'm just going to go stand over in the back and we'll just do our group photo really quick. So you got a seat way ahead. See, they provide solutions even in here. Okay, so we'll just do one regular look over here.